All right. Good morning, everybody. You can have a seat here and welcome to the conference of the AI and human rights. I think it's often being discussed whether the beginning of use of AI will be the end of human rights. And without any question, the increase of AI generates new challenges of human rights, but also could potentially offer at least some of the tools to defend our human rights and democracy around the world. AI-driven technologies are really entering more aspects of our human beings' life every day, starting from our smart home appliances, or when we talk about, for example, social media applications. And we have to ensure that human rights are strengthening and not undermining by AI. And this is one of the key elements that will define also the world we live in the future. But it's time to find the right balance, I would say, between the development of technology and human rights protection, as it's very urgent matter that will need to be defined also already today, not tomorrow. So my name is Anett Numa. I'm actually a cyber defense expert and also your moderator here the entire day. We have pretty exciting day ahead, I would say. If all of you, I'm pretty sure, have looked at the schedule as well here. We're going to have discussions on the human values and regulations of the use of AI. Besides this, also, we're going to talk about AI and security. And also, we're going to hear 3 different keynotes from our wonderful speakers. And also, there is one fireside chat on the schedule as well. As we have both people joining here with me in a room and also to the online channel. So I would like to go through some of the also practical things. So as we are connected over the workshop platform, I'm pretty sure that people who have attended Estonian conferences have been using this app already for many times. So I would really encourage everybody that are here, whether in a room with us or also joining to the online platforms, to ask your questions so that you can be more engaged to our discussion today. Like I said, we're going to have 2 panel discussions and 3 keynotes so that you can also submit your own questions, because it doesn't happen often that we have so many experts on the human rights and the relations between human rights and the AI together in the same room in a one event. So I would really encourage everybody to ask the questions. And for the information as well, people who can't watch the entire session today, so that you can also watch the recording later on. So this will be also available, and people who have registered to today's event will also get the link to the recording of the event. For the information, this event is being organized by the Estonian Human Rights Centre and funded by Luminate Foundation. But I'm not going to waste more time on doing the introduction side here, because like I said, we have so many different aspects of the relations between AI and human rights to be discussed here today. So without further ado, I'm very honored to welcome on the stage our first speaker for the welcoming remarks. And this is Dr. Katrin Newman-Metcalf, who is the Professor of Communications and Law in Tallinn University of Technology. And besides this, she's also the chairperson of the board of Estonian Human Rights Centre. So welcome on the stage.
So good morning. It's a pleasure and an honor to welcome you all here to a conference. I don't think I need to spend any time on explaining why this topic is so interesting and relevant. And we have lots of fascinating people among the speakers and also, of course, in the audience. So I'm very much looking forward to the discussions today. And just to underline, support what was already said, that please be active and ask questions and make comments. So, technology isn't good or bad. It all depends on how we use it. What do we use it for? In what context? This is true pretty much all technologies, and it's been true pretty much always. Of course, as we all know, what's changed in recent years or decades, it's not a change that came at a specific point, but it's been an incremental change. It's just how much we use technology in our daily lives, how much in society goes sort of through technology. Tallinn Law School, where I work at Tallinn University of Technology, we did a few years ago a project for the Estonian government where we looked at AI, what that would mean for legislation, like what new laws might be needed or what changes to laws. And what was very soon apparent was that this covered pretty much everything, pretty much all areas of law. So it was also apparent that one cannot suggest to make a law. And this is something, because I work a lot practically with e-governance and digitalization of societies in a sort of also more, let's say, more basic than AI context. And it's a bit the same there, that there is a temptation in many countries and very different countries to make laws when there is new technology, make a new law. This is often not a good idea. One reason what I just mentioned, you can't cover everything in a new law, like you can't cover AI in just one law or digitalization in one law because it affects the whole society. But there are also other dangers with this temptation. One is that you create parallel systems where it's not what we do or what data we're talking about, but it is how we do something that determines the rules, which doesn't make sense and becomes obsolete too quickly anyway. But then the other danger is also, again, something I've seen, unfortunately, in practice quite often. It has this tick the box effect. Okay, AI is a danger. Okay, we made a law on AI. We've ticked the box. We don't have to think about it anymore. And you've solved obviously nothing. So this isn't the way to do it. The way to do it is to have a more analytical and open mind. I'm probably going to mention even in my very short remarks several times that same thing, but it is important. Another way to reflect on the ubiquity of technologies in the modern society is actually to look at today's program or to look at the biographies of the people who are going to present here, because we're within one common frame, AI and human rights. And we have here people who are experts on diplomacy, crime, freedom of expression, rule of law, security, all within this common framework. I already said this, that technology moves faster and faster, like it's become more and more a part of our daily life. And it's quite interesting to reflect on this as well, because, for instance, color television took 13 years to reach 50 million users. Facebook took 3.5 years to reach 50 million. Pokemon Go took 6 days. And who remembers Pokemon Go? So technologies indeed come and go. But until now, they've still, we could say, been used as tools by humans. But with AI, we need to keep an open mind, because maybe the time is coming when we will be used as tools by technology. This perhaps sounds a bit too science fiction-y, but the question whether human oversight is actually the best way of having sort of securely dealing with AI, that is already very much a real question, because maybe something else is actually better, more efficient. I should perhaps say, as a kind of parenthesis, that maybe should have said in the beginning, that the terminology is interestingly fluid, that there is no one definition of AI. There are obviously different definitions in the EU's different instruments, for instance, but they tend to be very general. So sometimes it's sort of more specifically described, sometimes mentions algorithms separately and so on. Fortunately for us, this broader discussion about principles, and so that actually doesn't matter. We still know what we talk about. And so that's why I will allow myself to now mention instead the word algorithms, that we don't actually know whether algorithms are biased. Maybe they're not, maybe they're less biased than humans. But there is a difference still, and the difference is that we can ask humans, we can demand explanations in a different manner than we can do from the algorithms. And to just assume that there is bias, and then I heard recently in a discussion on algorithms, I heard somebody use an expression saying, ethical abandonment. And I like that very much. And we should not be guilty of ethical abandonment. If we just assume that there's bias, and if we assume, you know, there's bias in humanity, so there's bias in algorithms, we can't do anything about it, we are guilty of ethical abandonment. So we should not accept that assumption. We should see what we can do about it. And here, of course, we all know this sort of so-called black box effect of algorithms, that we don't know why they reached a different conclusion, or a certain conclusion, or a different one, a conclusion, why they reached this conclusion. So this is why it may be very difficult to actually determine whether this was biased or not. I think you all know that Justitia, the goddess or muse of justice, is usually depicted with a blindfold, which should illustrate that justice is blind to who it's dealing with. It metes out justice regardless of who you are. We all sadly know that this is not true in most parts of the world, unfortunately. But again, we shouldn't just assume that this means that we can sort of leave that also to this black box where we don't even have very good opportunities to ask how come a certain conclusion was reached. At the same time, I want to underline that it's not necessarily so that new technologies, AI or other technologies, pose a risk for human rights. They can also help to actually protect human rights. We shouldn't forget that aspect. And I see too often in the discussions that the assumption is always that this is a danger. But there are things that can be done thanks to technology, which would be very difficult otherwise. And we have some examples in Estonia. I'm sure most of you also, those of you who aren't from Estonia, are aware of the fact that we are very digital. We have very advanced e-governance. And one of the things that we can do very easily is see when authorities have accessed our data. And this is something which is actually quite unique in the world, that we can see that with one easy step, and the authorities have to explain why they've accessed our data. And within the authority, you can also see which individual accessed the data. So persons who have the right to work with people's data know this. So it's an actual way of making sure that the nice principles of the GDPR of proportionality and purpose of data use, that they mean something. So this is technology doing something good. Estonia is one of the few countries in the world, maybe even the only one, that has its own word for artificial intelligence. And of course, I don't mean now that it's translated to the local language, that everybody does, but we have a word, krat, which is a mythological creature from Estonian mythology, created in a very special, a bit sinister manner, giving drops of blood to the devil, but created by man, to work for humans, but also again in this, let's say, good or potentially bad way. So it's perhaps sort of not surprising, having said just how digital we are, that this is the country that also has created this sort of almost mythological creature of AI. It's also the word krat fits well to be linked to the word bureaucrat, which is the modern Estonian public servant, the bureaucrat, the artificial intelligence working for bureaucracy. And it's also not surprising, I think, that having done many of these sort of more down-to-earth e-governance solutions already perhaps 20 years ago that others are still implementing, that Estonia wants to go further and also engage more the AI for public administration. And maybe we'll hear more of it during the day as well from some of the other speakers, participants. As I say, it's natural and it can probably do many, many good things. At the same time, it's worth keeping in mind that talking about using technologies that are so advanced as AI is, it's important to pause a bit and think whether we really should always use them. I already said, and I want to underline it again, that sometimes it can be very good, but it may be I don't even know if I want to say bad, maybe let's say less good, for reasons that have nothing to do with technology, have nothing to do with law, are to do with these kind of soft, fluid things. Maybe we can say ethics, maybe we can say just attitudes or something. To pause and think, for reasons that cannot be specified, put in a certain box, no, we're not going to automate this. We're going to keep this old-fashioned, inefficient way we're doing things because it has a value that is difficult to define. That way of thinking must also be allowed to be there. That's a little bit of a struggle in Estonia sometimes to get that way of thinking anchored in society, but at least the debate is very open, and we are allowed to contribute with such thoughts. I will end with a quote, just to illustrate again this importance of keeping an open mind. The quote from a pioneer of aviation law from Hungary called Mr. Turnovsky, who said in 1910 that the airplane as a vehicle has no great significance, and according to many outstanding experts, will not have any for a considerable time. He was proven wrong in about 3-4 years or even less. So I hope that with all these outstanding experts, we will come up with thoughts that stand the test of time a little bit better. So I will end with that, and I wish us all a very interesting day. Thank you.